Greetings, Earthlings. I got a message telling me to get on with it and explain um, in layman's terms and kind of demonstrate how a compressor works and what exactly it does. So, this is going to be how to use a compressor and what it does for beginners. So what we have is we have two signal analyzers. They're both going at separate speeds, and one I can freeze, and then one I'll just kind of leave playing, and that will kind of give you a thing to think about and look at, and I'll show you exactly what's happening. Um, they're both doing the exact same thing. It doesn't matter which one you look at, but I'll kind of bring your attention to it when I need you to with my epic mouse movements. We have a basic drum loop here, and that's how it scrolls. And we have our compressor here. The default one, just dragging informations in. Basically, all compressors do the same thing. Different ones are modeled out different ones from, analog ones from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. There are ones that are good for just bussing, and there are ones that are good for just single sounds. Some are good for limiting, some are good for maximizing. Some have automatic makeup gain, some do not. Some has an adjustable knee, some do not. Some have fixed point ratios, fixed point attack, fixed point release. Ableton has adjustable release from 1 millisecond to 1 second attack and whatnot. Some are just opto. Some have all sorts of options: peak RMS and optical compression. Wow, I can't say that today. Some have feed forward again, and feedback, and then look ahead. Kind of irrelevant right now, but we'll get into that later. So right now I want you to look and listen to this. So now I want you to look at the top one. So we have our kick, our maximum point of amplitude. Does this whoosh, up. You notice it has a little curvy curve, right? Oops. Let me zoom in. Has a curvy curve, and then a hi-hat here, and then a hi-hat here. See, all three of these are different amplitudes. All three of these are, not as loud as the other. So we have our two hi-hats here, different kind of things, different amplitude, and our kick, fast attack here, and then our decay of our sine wave or whatever it's made out of. And you can see that here, right? Imagine that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring down the threshold, and you will see the hi-hat and the kick. I'll turn off automatic makeup gain. You'll see the hi-hat and the kick turn into basically be the same amplitude, and I'll show you that just by moving down the threshold, and this is how we're going to do it. So we have squished it, essentially. We squished it, so these are basically the same amplitude in their their amplitude in their perceived volume. They're basically the same loudness now. So what's happening is this is still being preserved, the transient, like the click of the kick. The compressor isn't activating at the beginning, and I'll show you that right now. My window's vibrating. That was weird. I'll show you. I'll make this part disappear right away. Check this out. So right now, that transient at the beginning, I've kind of gotten rid of that, and what I'll do is I'll squish it to hell more, and you'll be able to kind of hear the difference. So right now, that shit is squished. Everything is basically, the dynamic range of everything is compressed down into, a tiny little brick. Now, what we haven't done yet is we haven't brought up the volume, and hopefully you can hear this. If you can't, you might have to, automatically or manually turn up the volume on your speaker. But what I'll do is I'll do this for you. So right now I'm going to bring the volume up to match the reduction. So here we go. So right now we brought it up to around the same volume as it was, but right now these are the same volume when they weren't before. These hats and the kick is the same loudness, same amplitude I should say, but the two hi-hats have gotten louder, and this is what the compressor does. That's why it was invented. It was meant to kind of glue everything together and make sure everything that peaks over gets squished down. And you can see the GR, gain reduction. You can see it work here. But what it does is it gets rid of the transients, and the transients are the changes from loud to quiet. And we got rid of them with the attack here. So I'm going to reset the attack. 1 millisecond is about pretty good in most cases. So that's why it's default, because the Ableton guys are smart. And what I'll do is I'll duplicate this. And I'll leave that frozen, and you'll see what's going on here. So now we have our transients are preserved, and we've kind of designed them in, if that makes any sense at all. So we have the kick, the punch of the kick is coming through, and the hi-hats, still loud and proud, but we have the kick, the transients of the kick preserved, so it's still punchy, and perceivably, this is like a punchier kick as it was before, with the hi-hats already in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to reset that and reset that. Oops. Oopsie doodle. Oh, these are already reset. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the automatic makeup gain. So what this does is kind of like for every point in amplitude that the gain is reduced, this output automatically shoots up and then goes back to normal. And that's a kind of an automatic way. It's like having a little helper. If I move farther away from the mic, you turn it up, and then when I get closer, you turn it down. So it turns into one, whole sound. So I'll do that right now, and you can check it out. So same thing. The makeup gain, it levels everything out, so it doesn't turn into a tiny little brick. It turns into a big brick, and yeah, there's no wrong way to do this. You've heard the term overcompressed, but that's kind of subjective. Yeah, I'm indifferent. If a compressor with this kind of threshold and this kind of value, and maybe even like a high enough ratio, brings out your lead, then it's a good thing. So yeah, that's basically what it's doing for drums. And the attack just makes the compressor kind of, it gets the input signal. It's like if I snap my fingers in front of your eyes, there's a certain amount of time before you blink. So you're reducing the amount of light that goes into your eye. I don't even know. So you just kind of figure it that way, and the release is when the gain reduction goes back to normal. You know what I mean? and yeah, and you just kind of move it up and down. Um, and there are extreme ways you can do if you want to do it like kind of parallel uh, in a parallel way. Uh, you can do that, but generally, if you want to kind of smooth out, what it's basically doing is it's reducing the dynamic range, and I'll show you. I'll play it just dry. There, no compressor at all. Oops. And you have tiny amplitudes here. But what it's doing is it's at the top one. This is with the compressor value. At what we had it, what it's doing is it's making everything uh, below a certain point as loud as possible and kind of squishing it down. But at the same time, it's raising the volume for the parts that it decreases the volume in. So it raises the general amplitude um, without going over the volume. No, it raises the perceived volume without going over the amplitude, which makes things louder, perceivably, in our ears. Um, and that's basically the bane of the loudness war, because everything keeps on getting louder and louder and louder. But don't listen to those engineers. They're old and in the way, in my opinion. Just do whatever you kind of feel sounds right. So what I'm gonna do is just show you once again what's happening. So listen, or not listen, listen, yeah, listen and look at this analyzer up here and the one at the bottom if you prefer. As we bring the threshold down, I'll start with a fast attack, so we kill all the transients. That's at an extreme volume, and this is what you might use for a snare. You don't want the push like the snare to fill up the sound. You want the hit of the snare, and then you want it to get squished again. And the human ear can't really tell the difference. Uh, Maybe yours can, but the general listener can't really tell. It's a weird kind of thing that we have in our heads. So I'll do that once again. See, that's a setting. Moving the attack up, you get more of a punchiness while getting rid of things below it, like the oomph of the kick. You're getting rid of that, and you're reducing that, but you're still getting the click of the kick. And you can do this to your heart's content. It really depends, really. And you can play around with the release. The release is more of a mystery to me, but generally, I set the release to where it sounds good, and I can see the gain reduction kind of resetting where it matters. Kind of like a side chain. But then you get, if you have, a very very fast release, you get some harmonic distortion, which isn't too good. Because it's resetting too quickly and you got a whole lot of stuff going on. But generally, yeah, I think I've rambled on enough, and I think I've kind of explained it. Rewatch it a couple times, and you'll figure it out.